Let's start before we get into the soul of wealth. I want to hear about your recent health transformation that you've been very vocal about on social media. And it's fascinating to see. How did it start?
It started with a friend who was getting divorced. Funny enough, so I have a good buddy who I have worked out with for years. I've been religious about working out for many years. But so my buddy was ending his marriage of 27 years and was sort of facing the prospect of having to get back on the market and was trying to get ship shape in preparation for getting back on the market. And so just wanting to be a friend, I said, "Hey, like let me help you. Like we're already working out together. Let me be an accountability partner for you." He was paying good money to a personal trainer and a nutrition coach, and I'm quite cheap and knew I wasn't going to do that. And so I was sort of drafting off of his plan, and I just kind of got hooked. I mean, I just kind of got hooked. But that was the catalyst, though, was my friend wanting to get his health in order, preparatory to dating.
So there'll be a link in the show notes to your LinkedIn post about this transformation, but I'd love just to dig in a little bit. The first thing that you noted is that you're probably eating more than you think. What brought you to that realization?
Well, the great thing about this whole thing has been money is such a natural analog for nutrition, and I've always been good with money and perhaps bad with food. But the thing that I started to do was start tracking my calories and start tracking my macros, protein in particular. I had a goal to keep it simple. I knew it was going to take simplicity for this to work, and so I wanted to be over a protein goal and under a calorie goal every day, and that was kind of and move my body, and that was kind of the long and short of it. But when I started counting my calories, I was sort of shocked. Because if you had asked me if I ate healthily, I would have absolutely told you yes. I mean, I was a 7 day a week workout guy. I'd run or walk for 30 minutes a day. I would lift weights for, nearly an hour every day. But I was still overweight. And so I would have just said, "Hey, I'm unlucky. I don't eat too much. This is just kind of the hand I was dealt." But when I started tracking my calories, I became aware of just how much mindless eating I was doing. You're making a sandwich for yourself and then eating all the things that go on the sandwich before you make the sandwich. You know, pouring yourself a bowl of cereal and eating, two handfuls of cereal before you pour the milk on the cereal, and sort of only counting the stuff that went in the bowl, not the two handfuls that went in before. Only counting the cheese that went on the sandwich, not the cheese that you ate while you were making the sandwich. And so, yeah, it was like there was a level of mindfulness that came along with it to say, like, wow, like there's a lot of, stress eating, mindless eating, sort of unconscious eating that's not all that rewarding. I mean, it doesn't sort of register as pleasurable in a way because you're just doing it with so little intention. So yeah, that handful of crackers here, and like again, none of it was crazy. I mean, it's like, couple teaspoons of hummus here, a little cheese there, little crackers here, peanut butter there. It all really adds up though, and I became aware of how often that was happening.
You also talked in the post about your protein intake. And really, this is something that I've been trying to pay attention to and I've struggled with. So, how are you getting enough protein every day?
Yeah, people will not love this. I mean, the answer is really protein drinks are a huge supplement in there. So I have been, my goal weight is 175, 180. I'm at 178 today. So I'm about, where I want to be. But yeah, if sort of a healthy weight for me is 175 to 180, most of the advice I was getting was eat 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So, 175 grams of protein a day is a ton. Um, One thing that's worked well for me is Greek yogurt. I wasn't aware of how good for you Greek yogurt is. Greek yogurt is chock full of protein, meat, of course, eggs. But then I've been having, 2, sometimes 3 of these Fairlife protein drinks a day, which are like 150 calories and 30 grams of protein. So from a macronutrient perspective, pretty gaudy, pretty great trade-off. And so yeah, like meat, eggs, yogurt, shrimp, and a protein drink or two, and you're there. But it takes intention for sure. And the FDA would tell you to get 60 or 80 or something like that. So it's well sort of north of what most nutrient labels would tell you. And the reason is I didn't want to be scrawny. I didn't want to be skinny fat. I wanted to, I've worked out for years. I wanted to maintain whatever gains whatever modest gains I had, accrued over that time. And protein is a good way to stay full, and also to keep those gains.
Yeah, Daniel, I've been having some of the same challenges and goals of trying to keep my protein intake up.
Hmm.
My own experience with it is I've always kept myself in really good shape. I'm a pretty disciplined person.
Hmm.
I'm perfectly healthy now. Most of my listeners know I got sick last year, got better. And instead of once the fact I was better, I didn't just continue on working out, I gave up. And I spent 6 months doing nothing. So I love your term skinny fat. And I've never been fat in my life, but I was skinny fat. And so, in order to then get myself back into shape, I did what I had always done, was just go to the gym, lift weights, and do a little bit of cardio. And it wasn't getting it done. I didn't have enough protein, especially now that I'm 51 years old. And so I've had to pay attention to the protein. So every morning it's eggs, a piece of chicken. Try and really lean into some of the supplements you're talking about, but it's hard. I don't travel nearly as much as you do. How do you keep up with the challenges of eating clean and getting the protein while you're traveling?
Yeah, it's not easy, but in some ways it's harder, and in some ways it's easier. It's easier because you don't have that cupboard full of readily accessible food. I mean, you really have to kind of go get it, right? So that that's to my benefit. It's harder, but it's doable. I mean, I think most airports, most hotels now will have a protein drink. They'll have healthier snacks, and the more people like us sort of demand this, the more it will become the norm. But really, I have to plan out really at the beginning of the morning, and this isn't fun, but it's what I do now. I get up and go, okay, what am I going to eat and when? And I really sort of begin with the end in mind, Stephen Covey style, with my food. And I go, okay, at 10 o'clock, I'm going to have 100 calories worth of almonds. And like for dinner, I'm going to have a steak and asparagus. And, you know, I'm traveling tomorrow and I'm coming home at dinner time. So when am I going to eat before and after that? And never letting myself get too hungry either has been really good, because I found, I eat more often and more volume now than I ever have in my life, just because that's what's helping keep me full, and not have it feel so bad. So really just planning out that day from the beginning of the day or even the day before, and then just sticking with that. It's not fun. It doesn't make you fun at parties, but it'll it'll help you in the gym though.
Uh, Before we move on, you've got to tell us about your Snickers bar every night at 8 o'clock. Did the nutrition tell you to do that?
No, no, there's no nutritionist on earth who would, I think, tell you to do that. But it's interesting to me. One of my big revelations throughout this whole thing is I think I've dabbled with different, dabbled in keto, dabbled in sort of carnivore, dabbled in low fat, of course, back in the whenever's the 90s or whatever. And all of that just kind of left me feeling hungry. And I also just have a problem with authority, I think. I just don't like being told that something's off limits. And even from a psychological perspective, we have a very strong pushback reaction to being told no. And being told like you can't eat any carbs or you can't eat any sweets is just not going to work for me. And so what I do is at the beginning of every day, I'm like, I don't like going to bed hungry. I don't like going to bed. I like sweets. And so I'm going to enter a Snickers bar that I eat usually about 8 or 8:30. And it's filling, it's sweet, it's a reward for having stuck with my plan the rest of the day. and I just make it fit. I just make it fit, and it's really empowering to me to be able to eat every 2 or 3 hours, to be able to still eat a piece of bread or sweets, but just everything in moderation. And what I found is my sugar intake, even with a daily Snickers, my sugar intake is well below, the national average, is well below sort of the daily recommended, well below certainly my historical norm, because I'm not getting all this sort of unconscious sugar with that handful of crackers and the handful of nuts and the handful of peanut butter. Just all that stuff throughout the day really adds up. And that Snickers bar, I tell you, tastes like heaven because you plan for it, you save for it, and you expect it. And I really enjoy all 4 bites of that Snickers bar versus before where you're just sort of mindlessly tossing stuff back. So that's what I love about this. I think a well constructed diet, there's nothing is off limits. Over the course of this, I mean, I've lost 52 pounds in about 6 months. And it's like I've had carrot cake and donuts and Snickers. I mean, but the day you eat a 700-calorie piece of carrot cake, the rest of the day is rather lean, but like you can do it, if you really want that carrot cake on Easter, and I did. You can do it. You can figure it out.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your health transformation journey on social media. I'm starting to notice other folks that have platforms like you do doing things like that. And really, it just becomes inspiration for people who are struggling because this is a challenge here in this country.